One of the biggest tools the white supremacists use to control the general population is jealousy. Not just fear of minorities, but fear of minorities being more successful than you as a white person. Because implicitly, deep down, they know that they have a significant advantage over every single immigrant, over black and brown people in the US. Because of factors like racism, all you have to do is look to the government and see how white and how conservative it is. But they cannot accept the fact that somebody who came to America 5 years ago didn't know any English and was able to work themselves into society, get a good paying job, and take care of their family is more successful than them. They can't accept the fact that there are people who have come to America and done better in a system that was built for them. That is why I believe that a large portion of racism and bigotry in general is rooted in jealousy. It's not just about white people wanting to hoard the resources, it's about white people wanting to hoard them so other people don't get them. They would rather see people of color fail than another white person succeed, because it's never been about success, it's been about preventing others from doing well. That sort of spite is what keeps them going. This might be a hot take, but a lot of white people are not happy. I'm Kylie, and I grew up in a very conservative area. I wanted to say that a lot of white people genuinely live some of the most miserable and isolated lives that you could even imagine. I think there are 3 reasons for this. The first is that there is just a general idea of just hyper-individualism and hoarding of resources. A lot of them are extremely stingy, don't tip well, and also don't donate to local charities. They're very isolated, and what few friends they have, their connection is built upon shared bigotry, which is obviously not a strong connection. Number 2, a lot of white people feel a sense of emptiness. They have the job, the car, the career, the kids, the Bible, but they don't feel that sense of fulfillment. I think it's because the subliminal messaging that white people get from birth is that they're so much better than everybody else. And once you're in that sort of position, you will not allow yourself to open up to other people and opportunities that would genuinely bring you joy and fulfillment. And the third reason is that a lot of white people genuinely feel like equality is the oppression of white people. That means other people getting rights means that some of ours get taken away somehow, which obviously isn't true and shows the hyper-competitive nature of being white in America. Hi, I'm Kylie, and no, I don't think white people can experience racism. Can white people experience hatred because of the color of their skin? Yes. But is it as severe or damaging as when people of color experience racism? No, not at all. And because there are institutional barriers to the success of people of color and systemic inequalities, racism is a stronger and more apt term for what people of color experience on a day-to-day basis. Prejudice is simply harboring negative attitudes towards somebody based on a characteristic that they can't control, which I feel is a better description of the attitudes that some people of color have towards white people. Am I going to be profiled and arrested based on the color of my skin? No. Am I going to have a harder time getting a job because of the color of my skin? No. Am I more likely to be arrested, incarcerated, or wrongly convicted because of the color of my skin? Or called slurs? Like, no, I'm not. So that is why we say white people can experience prejudice, but not racism necessarily. Because it diminishes the harm of actual racism by saying that white people can experience it. You don't say that men experience sexism, because they don't. Yeah, some women have hostile attitudes towards men, but it doesn't affect their day-to-day life or their opportunities or make them psychologically distressed.
Most people don't realize this, but all racism is just jealousy that has mutilated so much that now it's so evil. It's legit the almost final evil form of jealousy. And I'm not talking about the systemic racism, the racism that's in the systems that, keep black people down and keep them in certain levels type of thing. I'm just talking about the type of racism that's in people's brains and their opinions and the biases they held, things like that. They're jealous of the things that maybe black people are capable of, or the natural bodies or faces that they're born with, or I don't know, maybe even the influence that black people have on things like entertainment and music and even sports and arts, just being jealous of kind of the culture that the black community holds. And mind you, jealousy is a very normal emotion. Jealousy is a normal human emotion to feel. But then when you don't clock your jealousy, when you can't accept your jealousy, you kind of hide it. And the more you try to hide something, the more it mutilates into something really, really evil. It's very similar to misogyny. It's very similar to hating women. Men, the thing is that a lot of people who are racist don't even realize they're racist. They'll have black friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But you don't actually look at black people as someone who is of equal, is equal to you. But yeah, it's very similar to women, because at the end of the day, a lot of men and women too, who hate other women and don't even realize it, it's because they're jealous of them. They're jealous of the privileges women have, and they're very different things. But then once you cross over women and also black women, it just turns into a whole different ballgame.
Hello, good people. Welcome back again to the channel. I go by Sherlock. If it's your first time that you're bumped across this particular channel. Now, in today's tea, white folks have reached a point whereby now that decency it can be seen, can be manifested in their jealousy. And now, jealousy is, when you feel somebody else is doing better than you. And sometimes that jealousy can lead to, someone doing, outrageous things to the other one. Now, white folks rather, at this particular point, even some of them are admitting that now it has matured. Or it is something that they've been, not openly disclosing before, but right now they're coming out publicly and saying that, hey, we are jealous of you people. Why? Because you're doing better. Because despite the fact that you cannot express yourself perfectly in English or in communicating in a language, and you came as immigrants, you are proving to do better, and that our attempts to curtail that progress is not deterring you, and that makes these individuals raged and confused and look like now and desperate that there is nothing they can do to change the cause of how things have been going. System has also proven that there are, policies that have been put in place to see blacks not really raising above their status quo, but that is not really hindering. There is a rise and a rising in many platforms. We see blacks faring well in, education, in politics, in businesses. They're opening business empires, in literature, in culture, in music industry, and that really gets them to some point mad. Now, I've put together clips courtesy of these beautiful creators, and me and you, we're gonna watch, and of course we're gonna make our thoughts towards the end of it. Is it so? Let's meet at the end.
Hi, this is just a reminder that hustle culture is white supremacy. Prior to colonization, there was no structured idea of time in the sense that we have. Human beings would wake up, find food, eat the food, be in community with their tribes, and then go to sleep and do it again each day. There was no concept of being lazy. You didn't have to be productive to have worth in society. And now, if you can't work, even if you have a chronic health condition, physical, mental, or emotional, you are seen as subhuman. So yes, while it's great to have goals and ambition, you have to be able to let yourself relax. Because if you don't, you are feeding into this system of white supremacy that is trying to literally steal your soul away from you. If you don't rest and recharge, you will not be able to maintain your goals and escape the system that is trying so hard to keep you down, especially if you are a member of a minority group. Your goal as a human being should be to connect with other people and to enjoy your life, not to contribute to a system financially. Your soul is far more important than your physical labor, so keep that in mind.
You need to look at this from an anthropological perspective and look at human beings more as like a species, an animal. It is not just our ability to feel that separates us from AI, but it is our ability to feel for each other. Empathy. The ability to empathize. And I say that empathy specifically is what makes you human because animals have feelings. For example, I've seen countless videos of like people who have multiple pets, and when one passes away, the other pet will experience depression because of the loss of their buddy. Animals can feel. Humans can empathize. Literally appears in every single major religion as what we call the golden rule. That is your ability to empathize with other people. If you are unable to empathize, if you are incapable of putting yourself in their shoes and seeing how you would want to be treated if you were them, you are lacking a key component of humanity to you. You do not support the betterment of our species. You are an active detriment to our species. And if we were still in hunter-gatherer times, you would have been weeded out as the weakest link in the community. Humans can only survive in a community. People in a community protect one another. They work together. They pool resources and share. And as seen in every other species on this planet that functions in community and not alone, It is typical that if an individual is not contributing their fair share to the community, and or if they are actively harming the community itself and the well-being of all, they are then isolated from the pack and left to die alone. It was literally necessary for the advancement of our species. Now, at some point of the human population growing, we developed wealth accumulation, right? Accumulating wealth means control because you can afford land, you can afford weaponry, or an armada if you wanted. You can afford resources, and then you can control the resources, and thus now you are in a position where you are the person dictating what happens in the community. And here's the fatal problem with that. Having a lack of empathy makes it easier to acquire wealth because you have no problem persecuting others or lying or cheating or stealing or doing whatever you have to do, including unaliving and enslaving people in your community. Because of this, communities lost the ability to weed out the people who do not have empathy and thus are harmful to the community. Not only did they lose the ability to ostracize these people, they became controlled by these people because they were able to accumulate wealth with their lack of empathy for others. And because now the people that are controlling society and ruling it are the people without empathy, we see the emergence of things like white supremacy and the patriarchy. And because of the patriarchy, women were forced to marry and reproduce with people who otherwise would not have been suitable candidates. And that is literally the reason why now, as a human community globally, we are about to have the world's first trillionaire exist, while some people cannot even afford to eat right now. Now, if you are a racist, I'd reckon you didn't stick around this long in the video. But I know that some of you are going to try to make the argument that I don't feel empathy for racists, so that makes me subhuman. And that is not true, because it is my evolutionary and biological responsibility to humans as a whole to not feel empathy towards the people who are harming the overall good of all of us. There is no reasoning or logic on this entire earth that justifies oppressing anybody. You are quite literally trying to compare non-empathy for the detriment of mankind to non-empathy for the betterment of mankind, as if they are the same thing. And I'm not saying that all racists need to die, but I am saying that I am totally okay with you guys going off on your own and starting your own communities outside of the society that I live in, because I don't want you in mine. For every racist that leaves this world, the world becomes a little bit better of a place.
Most people don't realize this, but all racism is just jealousy that has mutilated so much that now it's so evil. It's legit the almost final evil form of jealousy. And I'm not talking about the systemic racism, the racism that's in the systems that, keep black people down and keep them in certain levels type of thing. I'm just talking about the type of racism that's in people's brains and their opinions and the biases they held, things like that. They're jealous of the things that maybe black people are capable of, or the natural bodies or faces that they're born with, or I don't know, maybe even the influence that black people have on things like entertainment and music and even sports and arts, just being jealous of kind of the culture that the black community holds. And mind you, jealousy is a very normal emotion. Jealousy is a normal human emotion to feel. But then when you don't clock your jealousy, when you can't accept your jealousy, you kind of hide it. And the more you try to hide something, the more it mutilates into something really, really evil. It's very similar to misogyny. It's very similar to hating women. Men, the thing is that a lot of people who are racist don't even realize they're racist. They'll have black friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But you don't actually look at black people as someone who is of equal, is equal to you. But yeah, it's very similar to women, because at the end of the day, a lot of men and women too, who hate other women and don't even realize it, it's because they're jealous of them. They're jealous of the privileges women have, and they're very different things. But then once you cross over women and also black women, it just turns into like a whole different ballgame.
Racism is about jealousy. If you think that's a reductive statement, please stick with me. When I say jealousy, I'm talking about insecurity, which is really what jealousy is, but I think it's easier to understand if I say insecurity rather than just jealousy. Because we know from appropriation that we are very jealous of other cultures. Why would we want to listen to the music, eat the food, wear the clothes, do the hairstyles, have everything, the language, but not give credit where credit is due and not uplift the people who created it? White people are so lost in feeling like they don't have a connection to culture, especially many of us who are very far removed from our European roots. And I think the need to fill that space and that insecurity of this lack of culture and lack of something to call our own is often filled with cultural appropriation and the idea that being white is superior. I was first introduced to this concept of racism being jealousy in college, and I can't trace it back to one particular scholar, but I would like to give credit where credit is due to that black scholar. If you can find anything tracing it to one particular person, please leave that in the comments. I think it's important to think about racism in this way if we want to unlearn it. Because, as some people say who are non-monogamous, or anyone who's just working on their relationships, jealousy is an indicator that something is not quite right with us. It's an indicator of our insecurity and how we might be feeling. It's not about what our partner is doing or what someone on Instagram is doing with their life that makes us feel inadequate. It's about something going on inside. And I think we really need to interrogate that. What is it about people of color showing excellence, people of color maybe being more in touch with culture, people of color being more in touch with the environment, people of color making better food, and everything else that we envy? What does that trigger in us? And why do we have the need to put those people down? It's about jealousy. And if we can figure out that we're feeling that way and trace that feeling back to maybe some of our unconscious biases, I think it's a lot easier to start thinking about, how can we unlearn that? How can I feel secure in my identity as a white person who has roots in maybe Italian and like other cultures, but like doesn't really feel connected to anything? How can I feel secure in myself to not want to put others down, whether that be racism or any other form of discrimination, or just plain hating on another woman because she's amazing? You know, I think this makes it seem like racism is very simple, but it also just helps us frame it in a way that's accessible to us. We know that dismantling racism starts with individual work, and personal growth is all about thinking about the hard things about yourself and the things and parts of yourself that you don't like. And jealousy is one of those things. No one wants to be jealous. It's an awful, awful feeling. And we don't want to admit that we're jealous. And we shy away from that, but it's something we can interrogate, and I think that is going to help us go a long way. Anyway, just my thoughts. Happy Juneteenth. I hopefully will speak about this more coherently in the future. Black Lives Matter.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and no, I don't think white people can experience racism. Can white people experience hatred because of the color of their skin? Yes. But is it as severe or damaging as when people of color experience racism? No, not at all. And because there are institutional barriers to the success of people of color and systemic inequalities, racism is a stronger and more apt term for what people of color experience on a day-to-day basis. Prejudice is simply harboring negative attitudes towards somebody based on a characteristic that they can't control, which I feel is a better description of the attitudes that some people of color have towards white people. Am I going to to be profiled and arrested based on the color of my skin? No. Am I going to have a harder time getting a job because of the color of my skin? No. Am I more likely to be arrested, incarcerated, or wrongly convicted because of the color of my skin? Or called slurs? Like, no, I'm not. So that is why we say white people can experience prejudice, but not racism necessarily. Because it diminishes the harm of actual racism by saying that white people can experience it. You don't say that men experience sexism, because they don't. Yeah, some women have hostile attitudes towards men, but it doesn't affect their day-to-day life or their opportunities or make them psychologically distressed.
The Black community has long suffered under the weight of systemic racism and discrimination. As white people, it is our responsibility to use our privilege to support and uplift the Black community. Here are a few ways that we can be better allies. Listen and learn. We need to listen to Black voices and experiences without interrupting or dismissing them. We should educate ourselves on the history of systemic racism and the ways that it continues to impact the Black community today. We should seek out resources, books, and documentaries that help us understand the issues. Next, speak up. We should use our privilege to speak up against racism and discrimination. We should challenge racist comments and behaviors, even if it's uncomfortable. Silence that which perpetuates racism. We should support Black-owned businesses in our communities. We should advocate for policies that support economic justice and equity. Donate to Black-led organizations. Financially support Black-led organizations that are working to address systemic racism and inequality. It can be done through regular contributions or contributing to certain campaigns and initiatives. We should also use our platforms for good as white people. We have access to platforms and audiences that the Black community may not have. We should use our platforms to amplify Black voices and perspectives, raise awareness about issues affecting the Black community, and promote positive change. Be open to feedback and learning from our mistakes, as we will make mistakes along the way. But it's important to acknowledge them, apologize, and learn from them. We should be open to feedback and willing to change our behavior and perspectives as we continue to learn and grow. Being a better ally to the Black community requires a willingness to listen, learn, and take action. It requires us to use our privilege for good, support Black-owned businesses and communities, and speak up against racism and discrimination. It's up to all of us to work towards a more just and equitable society. And being a better ally is an important step. If you like the content and benefit from it, give me a follow.
What's fact is that Black people in the United States don't have the caucasity to define crime for everybody else while excluding themselves. What's fact is that European Americans have committed a vastly disproportionate amount of crime against humanity in the United States. European Americans have unalived and SA'd people of the global majority by the millions. European Americans have destroyed communities created by people of the global majority in the United States by the thousands. And until that truth is acknowledged and reconciled, there will be no excuses.
Being racist is proof of a low IQ, and we need to start treating it as such. There is no reason in the year 2025 we let people sit in our face and be like, yeah, you're better than me because of the color of your skin. Truly. Like, why do we even still have these conversations? I don't even understand why we give people platforms and allow them to speak about these things, because it's like we're going in circles and circles and circles about something that fundamentally does not matter, that they've made us they've made matter in order to divide us. And so many of these people are either brainwashed or so fucking hateful and unempathetic that they genuinely believe that race is the end all be all. Like, I would love to have racists in my comments right now. Tell me what valid reasons you have for thinking that you are better than any other race because you're white, or because you're any other race. Like, I believe this goes with every race who believes that they're above any minority. But at the end of the day, in America at least, white people made this country. The rules were built for them, by them. So we can acknowledge that systematic racism is real. And we need to stop acting like these racists are just not fucking stupid. Like, why do you think, like, fundamentally it's not logical in the slightest?
Racism, transphobia, homophobia, those are all signs of very, very poor intelligence. As well as poor intelligence, it's also a sign of being fucking miserable. I personally have never met a genuinely happy person who goes out of their way to hate on somebody else. Especially because of the color of their skin, because of their gender, because of what they identify as. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with me? To me, it's a sign of poor intelligence because you're taking one or a couple of experiences with a certain group and then thinking that every single person in that group is like them. That literally just doesn't make sense. To me, it also shows lack of emotional intelligence and empathy overall, because how could you see what's going on in the world due to the division of race and ethnicity and then still hate on people? And I do believe that you could, in theory, be very high up in like reasoning, logical reasoning, anything of that sort, pattern recognition, and still you lack some type of intelligence if you are truly hateful of others.
Circle back at the end of this particular show with my own thoughts and comments over the same, and here we go, tribe. Now, it seems that the people, it never crossed my mind that it will get to a point whereby, let us not call that on humanity, like, there's a certain level of decency that comes with, you transcending from maybe a good person to a bad person. But let me not say that they're bad people here. But jealousy, I thought that one should be reserved with, uncivilized individuals. Whereby, let's say, for example, you are not educated, and somebody feels like, and they're not educated, or you're slightly higher in terms of living status. Let's say you're doing better than them. But in America, it shouldn't, because everybody's doing good. It's perceived, it's preassumed that it's a land of opportunity, that everybody has a chance for this particular opportunity, and therefore no one should be like envy of the other because they've got equal chances and equal opportunities. Or maybe it is that idea that they've been spreading, that blacks were meant for, to be low, to be not doing better in areas. Blacks were illiterate, blacks were not creative, and I want to realize that is the opposite. That really eats them up. And when it gets to that particular point, it's totally now something else we're dealing with here. I go by Sherlock. If it is your first time that you bumped across this particular channel, how about you dropping me your comments on the comment section on what you think? I would very much love to see your thoughts on the comment section. See you in the next one, tribe.